Who are going to be this year's most prolific rookie passers and receivers? We've got takes to share with you today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Joe, we are diving back into the rookie pool today, which should be fun. This was originally scheduled content for yesterday, and then Jonathan Taylor happened. And then
granted permission to seek a trade.
And we talked about Jonathan Taylor, and then we debated about Jonathan Taylor again in the pre-show today.
Yeah.
But it's water under the bridge.
Wait a minute. Before we put the water under the bridge.
Oh, boy.
Are we sure he gets traded? Have we thought about the possibility of this just not happening?
I think there's a decent chance that it goes either way. If I had to guess, I would guess he does get traded. I think
so too.
I think there's enough of a market and interest here.
Yeah.
And teams obviously are going to, I think if it happens soon too.
Right. Wouldn't you want to get him in there? You got like 2 weeks right now before the season starts. Like get him rolling.
Cut downs in 6 days. Roster cut downs in 6 days. Deadline spur action. I don't know. Like,
it's gonna be wild.
I think if it happens, it happens in the next week.
Yeah.
And then maybe it gets revisited at the trade deadline if the Colts are not good. But I think it
seems weird for him to play there, doesn't it?
Yes.
Like the whole thing with the ankle and
getting sent home and then doing rehab away from the team. And
right. And man, I'm not going there. It's a weird situation.
Yes, it is. Which is why we both think it probably happens and he gets traded. Yeah. So you don't have to worry about it anymore. But that's story for another day. We already committed yesterday to it. Now we are talking rookies, and we have a couple of rookies at a couple of different positions, and our objective is to kind of put our flag in the ground on how guys are going to perform, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So this was your idea. Would you like to put it on the tee for us and get us started here?
Yeah, I think we all love to speculate about rookies and impact and production, and so that's exactly what we're going to do today. The first segment, we're going to talk about the rookie passing leader. So we're going to put in order the first-round picks and how many passing yards they have, and then a nice little caveat is that you have to come up with a fourth guy. So which of the non-first-round quarterbacks is going to have the most passing yards? Then we're going to do kind of the same thing for receiving, and then we'll talk about tight ends. There's a lot of tight ends coming out this year as rookies that are going to have roles, and we'll kind of debate where the most production will be. But we'll start with the quarterbacks and who is going to lead, or the order in which they will be in terms of their output of passing yards. And Kyle, I spent this morning kind of putting this together before we got together to record, and this was very, very challenging. I have much greater convictions about what I have to say the rest of the way, but this 1 through 3 between CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young, it's tough. And so I'm interested to hear your order and what your process was to get to that order.
Okay, so I think the thing that works against Anthony Richardson is there's going to be a quarterback run dynamic that does not exist with the other two players.
Thought about that as well.
Asked myself defensively, how positioned are these quarterbacks going to be to have to throw the ball out of necessity because of game situation?
Mm-hmm.
you look at the vacuum of their actual of the things that I took into account, one of the things that I put the least amount of weight in was the actual personnel around them on offense. Because it's how are they going to be used, the player himself, and then what is the typical script of a game going to look like for them? I think CJ Stroud is going to throw for the most yards.
That's what I have as well. And not with a lot of convictions, but I do have him at number 1.
Right. And the hard part with Stroud was I think the floor for Houston's defense is much higher. I think with DeMeco Ryans there, and they did spend and go out and get some guys, there is a ceiling that I think they can pursue. And if that happens, then their floor is going to be higher, and you might not need to throw the ball with a great deal of consistency. But I have concerns about the volume of quarterback run game for Anthony Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
And then from Bryce Young's perspective, I think Carolina's defense from a talent perspective right now is better than Houston's. And then you also have what the protection has looked like for Carolina and the Bryce Young dynamics of him being an outlier player at the position.
For me to settle on CJ Stroud, I thought a lot of the same things that you did. But what really put him at number 1 for me was the reps, right? I think he's probably the most repped guy coming out of college, right? And I think that positions him to have some production.
Yep.
And some of the concerns, like I think the Panthers could be playing close games because of their defense, and maybe they won't want to just rely on Bryce to throw the ball that much. And then Anthony Richardson, only like a 13-game starter coming out of college. And then, of course, you mentioned the rushing dynamic. I feel like Stroud is positioned to have the most yards. He might not, but I think that my process leads me to him.
So I am in the same boat as you are.
I have Bryce Young at 2 and Anthony Richardson at 3.
I think if we were doing total yards, I would have Anthony Richardson at 2, if not 1. But because it's just the passing yards component, and right now for Indianapolis, that's where I start to get to, okay, what's the skill group look like? It's Pittman, really, really good player. Alec Pierce, these tight ends.
Isaiah McKenzie.
I actually just saw, I don't know what his status is, but he got banged up the other day.
Did he? Josh Downs,
but a young player, some growing pains there. So yeah, I think if you're just looking at passing yards, I would put Bryce at 2.
Yeah. And kind of another thing here with considering this is the systems that they're going to run. You mentioned that, but like Bobby Slowick, Kyle Shanahan, they find ways to get production out of quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
So I lean into that a little bit too, where, I'm not saying that Shane Steichen and Frank Reich aren't going to get great production out of quarterbacks as well, but there's a little bit more of a history there that I can lean on and point to that makes me feel good about it. So what about the other side of this question? Which non-first round quarterback has the most passing yards? There's some contenders here, a few more than I thought. You can think about Will Levis. You can think about
Will Levis.
Think about Aiden O'Connell. You can think about Clayton Tune. You can think about Dorian Thompson-Randall. I think that's a tough path.
Robinson.
I always say Randall, don't I?
Yeah, you said Randall
What
yesterday.
Is that
too,
about?
I wasn't going to put you on the spot yesterday, but now you've done it 2 days in a row and disrespecting my guy. So
wow. Is that a pronunciation police issue? Like, what is,
is
that like the state trooper component of it? Like, just the wrong name in general, you get arrested for that?
He just came in over the top and said no.
Okay, my answer is this. Oh, it's either Aiden O'Connell or Clayton Tune. The Aiden O'Connell dynamic, Jimmy Garoppolo, the starter with the Raiders, Brian Hoyer, the backup. But O'Connell's been really good in the preseason.
Yes.
But I do settle on Clayton Tune. Kyler Murray, not in the picture right now. Colt McCoy / Clayton Tune. One of those guys is going to be the starter. And even if it is Colt McCoy, the guy may not be able to stay in that job, right? He might get banged up. I think there's the clearest path for Clayton Tune to play quarterback this year and have the most passing yards for a non-first rounder.
So you think it's Clayton Tune?
I do.
Give me Aiden O'Connell. Brian Hoyer's not starting anything. I don't care if he's the backup, right? And Jimmy Garoppolo. How many
He's hurt all
times
the time.
How many times has Jimmy Garoppolo started more than 10 games in an NFL season?
Maybe twice.
Twice. 2021, 15 games, and 2019, 16 games. 10 last year. 6, 3, 5, 2. And that most recent, or that least recent 2, was the 2 games that he started with the Patriots before he got traded to San Francisco. There's not a track record of being available here. He almost didn't pass his physical to sign the darn contract.
I think we got it down to the right, too. It's just a matter of which one.
Aiden O'Connell will probably start at least 6 games this year.
Ooh, okay.
And because of that, he's my choice to be the non-first rounder on this list.
Would be completely stunning to me if it was not one of those 2 players.
I agree.
Hey, if you want to look stunning, get yourself some Bird Dogs. These things are awesome. Love this brand. They've got joggers, they've got shorts, and I love their shorts. They have this these khaki shorts that are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg and give you that sculpted look. And everybody talks about Lululemon, but Bird Dogs do the exact same thing, but they actually fit better. They fit way better than regular shorts that are made of that stiff, restricting cotton. Bird Dogs, they fixed it all. They invented cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches, so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. They're great for the golf course, date night, casual, whatever you want. Bird Dogs, they fit the occasion. And they also have this anti-stink, sweat-wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. So go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL or enter promo code LockedOnNFL for a white tech hat. It's a good-looking hat. You get that free with your order. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off, we promise you.
So now we're on to receivers, correct?
Yes.
So we're all passing game today.
Passing game.
And the objective is we have 4 first-round wide receivers: Jaxson Smith-Njigba, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addision. We want to determine what order their receiving yard production is this year. Is that correct?
Yeah. And let me say this as well. One thing that I guess anybody should know at this point is you're always going to be measured against your peers from the same draft class, right? And so for the rest of time, we're going to talk about Addison, Johnston, JSN, Zay Flowers all together because they were part of that same draft class. Just like the quarterbacks, we do it every single year. And so it's fun to look at it from this vantage point to begin with because that's how they're always going to be measured.
So I guess the biggest news out of this group is JSN wrist surgery the other day. Yeah, which is a bummer. Now, it might still be back for the start of the season, but had a broken wrist, or broken bone in his wrist that they needed to get cleaned up. Which, if that's all that it is, it's relatively considered the bullet dodged. But at the same time, I've had some JSN takes as part of the way too aggressive draft dudes bets, and said he was going to outproduce either Metcalf or Lockett, let alone these other guys that got drafted in the first round of this year's class. So little leery right now about the status of that one.
I'll tell you this. I don't have JSN at number 1, but I don't have him last either. So
I have him second.
Okay. So who do you have first? Let's start there.
Let's do your 4. Who's your 4?
My number 4 is Zay Flowers.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, I think what this comes down to is the history of the Baltimore Ravens passing offense. It's not that prolific every year. Like, it's bottom tiers, 28th last year, 13th the year before that, 32 the year before that, 27th the year before that. And I know there's a new system and all that type of stuff, but you're telling me that Zay Flowers as a rookie for a historically low volume passing offense is going to all of a sudden have this production when Mark Andrews is in the way, Rashad Bateman's in the way, Odell Beckham Jr. is in the way. I like Zay Flowers. This has nothing to do with Zay Flowers. I think he's going to be a great player for them. But in terms of rookie season passing volume, I see him getting the least of it from any of these receivers.
So remind me one of the receivers in front of him.
Mark Andrews.
Okay, tight end. Now receivers.
You're going to say that they're injured. Odell Beckham and
They're
Rashad
always
Bateman.
hurt. They're always hurt.
Okay.
So
It doesn't matter. But then over the top of that is just this is not a historically productive passing team.
I think Todd Monken's going to come in, and even if it's to the detriment of the entire health of the offense, they've made this decision. They're going to do it. They're going to do it. I'm not saying
I don't think the volume's there.
He's not last. Zay Flowers is not last for me. Quentin Johnston's last for me.
Ooh, okay.
Listen, you still got Mike Williams. He's always hurt because I just said that.
He's always hurt. Keep going, Kyle. Who's next? Keenan Allen. He's always hurt.
Keenan Allen. You've got Gerald Everett at tight end. Kellen Moore's used the tight end. Like Dalton Schultz has been like a really relevant fantasy football player at the tight end position the last few years because of the offense that he's played in. And now you've got a more athletic player in Gerald Everett in that spot. I just think from Austin Eckler, still going to get the ball a ton. I just think there's so many mouths to feed, even if it is a high volume passing offense. I just think there's opportunities for the other spots for those players to outperform. I think Quentin Johnston, who is, and I understand he's looked good in camp. He's looked more diverse in camp. There was some route running questions there. How diverse of a menu can he get early on? Those questions for me add up. Quentin Johnston is my fourth place lister.
Okay. How do you want to go? Do you want me to tell you where I have Quentin Johnston next? Just continue that conversation.
Do you have him 3?
I don't have him 3.
Oh my God. I got to go get my Bird Dogs white tech hat. I'll be right back.
I have Quentin Johnston at number 2, and I have a lot of concerns about that. So Quentin Johnston, I think that there's a lot of growth that he needs as a player to be able to come in and produce. With that said, I think that he has the best quarterback of any of these players, and that is something that I value a lot. We saw this team last year have injuries to Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, and Josh Palmer had a decent amount of production filling in for them. I think with a better coordinator, with the best quarterback of any of these guys, and I think a path to getting the football, I like Quentin Johnston, and a lot of that's rooted in Justin Herbert.
Okay, I've Quentin Johnston 3. So I generally agree with what you said, but I'm still super high on JSN. The timeline hasn't been thrown off yet. So I think he's going to be kind of the X factor player in Seattle's offense, which is interesting that we both have not mentioned Jordan Addison once yet.
Yeah.
That's your 1, I assume.
Okay, so I've disclosed that Zay Flowers is my 4 and Quentin Johnston is my 2.
Yes, and I'm guessing that Jordan Addison's your 1.
Jordan Addison's my 1.
He's my 1 as well.
Consistent quarterback in Kirk Cousins.
The running game's not going to be good.
Won't be there. Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, but who else? KJ Osborne, is that your big takeaway guy from Jordan Addison getting the football?
The defense is going to
stink.
I wouldn't be surprised if Brian Flores gets it to overachieve a little bit, but at the same time, the personnel that they have available is not in line with the ideology of what Brian Flores wants to do.
See, he's your 1 too.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. So that means you have JSN where? 2?
2.
So you have it Addison, JSN,
Quentin Johnston. Or no, excuse me, Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnston.
Okay. And I have it Addison, Johnston, JSN, Flowers. If JSN was healthy, this is a different conversation, but I think it's just a tough time to get injured, right? Early on,
yeah,
you're kind of still forming your identity as an offense and where you all fit together. This is just not the time you want to miss. And then he's going to come back and be healthy a couple weeks into the season and have to just get it going.
He might be ready for the start of the season, man.
I hope so. I
hope he is too.
Love the player, and I'm high on Seattle this year, so I'm excited to see what that can look like.
So that's wide receivers.
Well, we have the other caveat here: most receiving yards for a non-first round wide receiver. I knew you were going to say that. I sat here and it's this morning I was like, Kyle's just going to say Puka Nacua,
unless the Rams trade for Jonathan Taylor, in which case I might change my mind. Say, well,
now we want to entertain that, Mr. Krabs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have Puka Nacua on my list. I have Jonathan Mingo from the Carolina Panthers.
Really?
Yeah. I do. This is the guy that I'm going with. I felt like Bryce was looking for him in that game the other day. And I think Bryce is going to work off script a little bit this year. And that's the guy that I just feel like what's that?
That's good news for Mingo.
I think so. Yeah. Scramble drills, like just run to space and throw it to the big athletic guy. I think he's going to have some of that this year. And I think one of my concerns with Bryson, like I felt it on that Adam Thielen throw where he like scrambled and he like launched it down the field, and Thielen was like pinned against the end zone or the sideline with that the corner had inside leverage, and I'm like, he needs separation in those moments. And I think Jonathan Mingo can give it to him. I think Mingo's the most prolific non-first round wide receiver.
If I were not going to say Puka Nacua, the two names that I would invoke are Nathaniel Dell with the Texans.
You're calling him Nathaniel? Nathaniel Dell?
Tank Dell.
Okay.
He was really vibing there. He looked really good. And Rashee Rice is the other one.
Rashee Rice was on my short list, and so was Jalen Hyatt.
Okay.
But I went with Mingo.
Very good.
These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. And folks, it's so easy to create a free job post over at LinkedIn Jobs, and then once you do, add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. And then simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Also, happy National Senior Bowl watch list release day to you.
Saw that, man. Their account put out like the defensive line watch list, and it was like 3 minutes long, just name after name after name after name.
Boom.
A lot of players out there.
I'll keep you up to speed for sure.
Yeah.
Tight ends?
Yes.
Okay. So how do you want to – we don't have 3 first-round tight ends.
We don't.
So how do you want to categorize – is it just a free-for-all, the 3 top performers?
Free-for-all top 3.
Okay.
Some good options out there.
I think the top 2 are obvious.
Ooh, I sort of think so too. I didn't know if you would agree with that, though.
I think Sam Laporta and his role in the Detroit offense and Dalton Kincaid with the expected role that has been communicated by the team are a very clear tier of 1 and 2. It's just what order you want to put them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I that's who I have 1 and 2. I have a Kincaid, Laporta. I think you'll see more volume passing the football from the Bills with a better quarterback. And man, they're asking him to do the Beasley stuff, Beasley stuff. I don't know why that was weird to say. Cole Beasley stuff.
I guess the only counter is I agree with better offense. I agree with better quarterback. From a touches perspective, are there more players in Laporta's way or Kincaid's way?
Oh, I would say it's Laporta. Or there's more players in Kincaid's way. I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
So, and we're doing receiving yards.
Receiving yards, yep.
Just because he's a Bill, give me Laporta 1 and Kincaid 2. But that's a coin toss for me.
So your process is because he plays for the Bills, you're going with Laporta?
I think it's a legitimate coin toss, and because you're a Bills fan and I'm not, I'm just going to say Laporta.
I didn't know if you meant that like on a personal level or because of the players in the way that you were referring to.
No.
All right.
It is literally coin toss, but I will go for the sake of the show and the bit of being a Dolphins fan. I will say Laporta 1, Kincaid 2.
Okay.
What yardage do you feel is safe to project both of those guys to go over?
I've thought about this a lot from Kincaid's perspective. I think he can average 3.5 catches a game. And if he does that, that puts him around 60. That puts him right at about 60.
60 yards?
No, 60 receptions. So if he averages what do you think? 11 and a half, 12 yards per catch is probably reasonable. We'll go 11 and a half. That puts him at 690, somewhere like that, around 700 yards.
I was going to say for both of them to clear and be confident, my number would have been 650.
Yeah. The thing that worries me a little about Laporta is like they just rolled with Brock Wright last year as their starting tight end after they traded away TJ Hawkinson. I think that they
buzz, though.
And he should have it. I think it's going to be pretty close.
Okay. Now, number 3 is where the Wild West opens up.
Yeah.
From a candidate's perspective, you have Michael Mayer. Obviously, Raiders making a big transition at tight end. You have Luke Musgrave, who Green Bay has done anything and everything under the sun with thus far in camp in the preseason with. That's probably it for the guys that I think really...
Schoonmaker, does he have a claim?
Jake Ferguson's got a lot of buzz. There's a lot of positivity around Jake Ferguson. Imagine being surprised Jake Ferguson's going to end up being a successful NFL tight end.
They still picked him pretty high. Brenton Strange has been pretty productive as well. I mean, that's kind of tough because he's probably at best the 6th option in that passing game at best.
Right. You've got ETN in the backfield. Bigsby from a carries perspective will take a good volume, but then you have Ingram in the tight end room alone.
Right.
And then you have Calvin Ridley's back and Christian Kirk.
And Zay Jones was really productive for them last year.
I just think that the numbers aren't friendly there. But if everybody's kind of I'm going to go with Luke Musgrave because the slate is effectively blank for everybody. You got a first-time quarterback. You got all first and second-year wide receivers. They're moving him around, so they're finding all these ways to keep him on the field. I'll go with Luke Musgrave.
That's who I had as well. So we had the same 3, but our number 1 is different. Do we make that a draft dude's bet? You want it?
I don't have enough conviction because I said it was a coin toss. You're already going to get me on enough of my bold bets that I went out on a limb for the sake of the bold bets segment. So
we might not be doing that again next year.
Yeah,
unless I step up my game.
Using them to make our bets.
Got to let them organically happen. Just put them on the table there.
When I get wiped to the floor with our bets this year, I will make sure that
you want to take. I have Zay Flowers as number 4. I'll put that out there for you. The 4th of the first round wide receivers, Zay Flowers has the least amount of receiving.
I'll take that bet.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah,
that felt like a little bit of a redemption, right? Like,
yeah,
I put something pretty bold out there, and you took it.
It's a bold bet, so I'll write it on the list here when we're done. Which I think we're done. Okay, great. I'm Kyle Crabbs. He is Joe Marino. This is Locked On NFL Scouting. Hope you guys enjoyed this jaunt through the rookies on the offensive side of the ball, looking at passing game production and kind of our predictions on how the pecking order is going to fall. You can hit subscribe. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Shout out to LinkedIn and also Bird Dogs, the white tech hat right here, for helping support the program as well. We hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Come on back. See us again tomorrow. We are out of here. Peace.